Elden Ring the board game is a cooperative quest-based campaign game based on the smash hit game Elden Ring. Note that everything you're about to see are prototype components and are subject to change. Also, this is an overview for specifically the quest that we played, so certain things may be different if playing a different quest, but this should give a general overview of the board game as a whole. This game is built into two halves, exploration and then the boss fight. Each player will have a specific character that will have a special ability, and they will start with some equipment and armor. When exploring, all characters will start on a hex tile. Throughout the whole game, whenever it's your turn, you will get to take 3 actions. You may explore and bring out a hex adjacent to the hex you're on, you may move to an adjacent hex, though you may not move over these red barriers, and you may interact with tokens on the hexes. During the exploration phase, you are trying to complete objectives. These may require you to fight enemies or interact with specific tokens on the board. These tokens here are materials that will give you cards which may be used for objectives, side quests, and more. These tokens here give you extra lives that you can use if you die while in a fight. These ones here are merchants who can give you hints and secrets that may be helpful during the boss fight. These tokens allow you to warp in and join your companion on a fight that they are in. And these are NPCs who will be holding tantalizing side quests for you to go on. And finally, these tokens are encounters with enemies you will have to defeat. You cannot interact with anything else on a tile with an encounter until someone engages with it. When you hop into a fight, you will take your book with battle maps and open it to the page shown on the token. You will populate it with enemies, and then when it's your turn again, you will fight. Note that only you go into this fight. The other players are still out exploring, and the game doesn't stop for your fight. You just simply resume your fight when it's your turn. During a battle, each participant will have a marching order which is shuffled and then placed face up. This is the order in which you'll activate. The battle map is broken into 2 halves, and the fighters may not cross over to the other side. In a normal battle, the enemies will have a single card they will execute every turn. These arrows indicate that the enemy will move, and then the swords show the attack. When things attack, they are usually attacking the lane that they are in. You'll notice that you will always know what the enemy is going to do, and it's your job to react to that and, not die. When it's your turn, you will take 3 actions. For an action, you may move, draw a card, or use a card to attack. There are generally 2 kinds of cards, attack cards and block cards, but both work in the same way. When you are using a card, you will then flip over the top card of your effects deck. These will have symbols like the generic fist symbol, a strength arm symbol, or a fancy hand dexterity symbol. These symbols dictate what on your card you can activate. For instance, if you drew this heavy strike card and then this effect card, you may do the bottom action once, which is either inflict 1 damage or push the enemy. But if you drew this effect card, you may do the top strength action, which is a damage and a push. But some cards have multiple symbols. This would allow you to use both the strength and generic actions, and this would allow you to use 3 generic actions. So you don't know what exactly is going to come up, but you can make some calculated guesses. The block cards work in the same way, except you will use them when you're being attacked. You may have noticed that on the battleground there are some symbols to the side. If you're in the back row, you get to draw an extra effect card when blocking, and you choose which one to use. You also draw a card at the end of your turn. In the middle row, you get to move your marching order card 1 space forward or back when they're revealed. And in the front row, you get to draw an extra effect card when attacking. Also, if the enemy is in their front row, they're vulnerable, and you get to draw an extra card when attacking as well. When you defeat your enemies in combat, that encounter is done and you will go back to the exploration board. You will keep exploring until you complete your objectives and find the big boss. Then you will activate the boss, and all players must enter the boss arena, which is a combination of the players' battle books. The boss fights work much in the same way as a normal encounter. The main difference is that they don't just have 1 behavior card, they have a whole deck, and each round they will draw cards equal to the number of players. Then these will get shuffled up with the players' marching orders and then flipped over. So the boss may do all of their actions before you. The boss is also just much stronger and hits a lot harder. For example, they might just start hitting entire blocks of areas. When you likely die in this fight, you may turn in a life token to come back into the fight. But if you run out of life tokens and then you die, the players lose. But if you defeat the boss, you win the quest. Throughout the quest, you will be leveling up and customizing your characters. We unfortunately can't show this as we don't have access to those assets, and what we saw was limited. But when you level up, you will get to change up your effects deck. So if you wanted to make a super dexterity build, for instance, you can. And that is a brief overview of Elden Ring, the board game.